Hey up, everyone. Welcome to episode 27 of the Yorkshire Gamers, our Read Big Wargames podcast. And this is a continuation of episode 26 when I spoke to Martin from Seventh Son and Steve from On Point HQ, both members of the Plastic Crack podcast. And we spoke in the episode 26 about them, and we did the quiz and a bit of War Games Room 101, and it went on for quite some time, I'm afraid. And we ended up with close on to 4 hours of recording. So I decided to split them into two. So you're listening to the second half now, and this would be the big topic in a normal show. So we're going to talk about their channels, Plastic Crap Podcast, and the little convention that they run called CrackCon. So we'll be looking forward to that in a minute. So if you've come to this fresh to the podcast, you might want to bob back and listen to episode 26 for it to make more sense. I say more sense because it probably isn't going to make that much sense if you're a regular of this show. You know the various rabbit holes that we can drift down. I'd just like to say we've reached a bit of a milestone in terms of downloads, and we've now gone over 20,000 downloads for the podcast on the audio version of the podcast, which is not bad, not bad at all. And when you include the listens on YouTube, we are over 35,000 listens. So that's amazing. Thank you very much for your to you all. Thank you all to your continued support for this podcast. It means a lot. A lot of hard work goes into organising, recording, and editing these podcasts. So it's great when people enjoy them. And if you don't already, please subscribe on Podbean or on YouTube to the channel. It's free, and it would be great to have you on board. And I'd especially like to thank the people of Finland. Yes, I said Finland because this week we were Yorkshire Gamers Read Big War Games podcast was number one in the Finland Apple podcast charts for games. We were 4 places above Critical Role, and Critical Role is absolutely massive if you don't know it in the States. They have thousands and thousands. So somehow, somewhere in Finland, there are lots of people listening to this. So Finland, we love you. I don't know if it's cold and you're inside and you're keeping warm listening to this podcast, but thank you very much. What can I say? What can I say? Speaking of other countries, I do keep an eye on the statistics, and it shows you where people listen to the podcast. And somebody is regularly listening in the British Marshall Islands. So nice to have you on board. I hope you're enjoying it out there in the dreadful weather of the British Marshall Islands. But more seriously, just for a second, there are 3 or 4 downloads every episode in the Ukraine. So if you are out there in the Ukraine listening to this at this moment in time, I wish you all the very best. I wish peace for your country, and I hope that you and your family and your friends and your neighbours are safe in these very worrying times for your country. And I do honestly hope that it all turns out well for you. And if this podcast in any way, shape, or form brings a little smile to your face, I'm so glad that we've done that. So thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. This episode is going to go straight through, so there's no breaks whatsoever. So if you're slightly older, you might want to go to the toilet now. And if you're going to be doing some painting, make sure you've scraped all that mould out of your wet palette, and you've got a fresh supply of drinks, because it's another hour and 50 minutes of chat with a couple of lovely guys, and I hope you enjoy it. So without further ado, here's the interview. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're on to the big topic section of the Yorkshire Gamers Eat Big podcast. And this is where we chat with our guests about what they're familiar with, what their day job is in the wargaming hobby, if you like. So we're going to talk all about PCP, but before we do that, we're just going to have a little bit of background on these guys' YouTube channels. I think Martin, I think you said you started yours when you were looking for a YouTube video that didn't exist, and you thought, let's give it a go.
Yeah, but you're not going to like it because
Go-
it's so basically it came back to when the contrast paints came out about 2 years ago because
oh,
I know, but you see, everyone was babbling on about them, and so but no, at the time I was looking for a video, and it was in the first couple of weeks of them coming out. I was just saying, okay, there's plenty of orcs and space marines and that have been painted with contrast, but I couldn't find any of just things like horses or historical models.
yeah,
So I waited around for a few days and thought, oh, maybe one will appear, and sort of like just looking around the normal sort of haunts that I do, because the one thing that I despise painting is horses, and anything that will make that go quicker is fine by me. So I thought, well, I'll just do it then. So I went and bought five, and I didn't know anything about how to really film anything. So I set my mobile phone up, leaning on some books, which was sort of pointing down at my desk, and then I set a stopwatch going next to see how long it had been to paint, and that was it, just to see how quickly they could do it. And it wasn't really it wasn't meant to be a video to say, oh, look how good these are, because it was just meant to be, if you're a historical, if you want to know, this is how it seems to be working for me. And then that got quite a few views and quite a few comments, and then I started thinking, I was like, well, what are the other videos that I wished that I'd have had when I was looking for? And it was really, they started out as doing painting. I think my first few videos were all painting videos. The first one was a contrast one, then it was how I paint Old Guard, then it was how I do the French cannons, and then it was like the Union Brigade. So because I just remember thinking, I wish I'd have had these guides. I'm not saying that my painting is astounding or anything like that, but it just gives you ideas, and just gives you some shortcuts perhaps, because there are some painting guides out there, but they were all mega detailed. It was, this is how to make an Old Guard Grenadier look like an Old Guard Grenadier, like from, you could be 30 centimeters away from this thing and you'll see every bristle in the moustache. And that's not what I wanted. I was just trying to do, these look good enough to be these are Grenadiers from the 3 foot away, and this is how I do them, and I'm happy with them. So that's what I went with, and then it just started going into things like hobby updates, and then obviously, because I was starting my Wars of the Roses, I don't want to use the term project because I don't really call it a project anymore. I don't know what I'd call it, labour. But at the same time, I just started charting the progress through that, really, and that's sort of how everything sort of started off. Because it was quite a while before I did any battle reports. I think it was about.
So how long ago was it that your channel started though? When was your start date? Do
It
you remember?
was. It's coming up to. Probably should know this, shouldn't I? I think it was about 3. I think it was. Yeah, it was before my second daughter was born. So I think it's come up to nearly 3 years.
Yeah, I think you find that it goes. I think you find it goes project, collection, obsession, divorce.
Is that a promise?
I've not got to the divorce stage yet. I've got plenty of obsessions.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Mrs. Riley's quite. She says she's a farmer's daughter, so everything's very very straightforward and straight talking. So at least I'm not down the pub being chased by loose women. That's what Mrs. Riley says.
Well, my wife is part Geordie and also an army brat. So
Ah,
there's no mincing of words. Well, I believe you met her
yeah.
at GratCon. There's no, you know where you stand. But I think she, a bit like you, she's saying, well, at least well, I don't know if she does prefer it to have a hobby. She said as long as it's contained to the little room that I'm kind of banished to, then she doesn't really care.
Steve, then when did you start, mate?
It was the back end, really, really end of 2018. As I mentioned, me and my mate used to have a Facebook page. It was just a page, and it was just me and him posting pictures of what we'd been working on, mainly to keep us interested and motivated. Because we weren't gaming. We were just painting. We had no real plan or anything like that. So I've been thinking about it for a little while, and then I think it was Black Friday came round, and serendipitously, this webcam appeared quite dirt cheap on Amazon.
Oh, handy.
What could possibly go wrong in buying it? So I bought it, and I had no idea what I was doing, literally no idea, and all the videos were sort of scattergun. Bits and pieces everywhere. But I eventually settled on doing bolt action videos for the most part. And I think then I just became infamous, if that's the right word, for doing bolt action kit bashes, or putting things on bases that probably shouldn't be based. And I honestly think it was bolt action that was the mainstay of the channel. I think it still is. I think that's what people tend to know me for. They don't know me for really much else than apart from Tournament 28, Tournament 28 and bolt action.
Yeah, is that the thing you want on your gravestone?
Yes, I told you could base it.
Your gravestone will have a lovely base covered with Vallejo mud around it.
What's that? A gravestone made out of cork? What?
and loads of tufts coming out of the back of it.
Yeah,
You're not allowed, a big sign on it: "Do not weed."
Exactly. No, I just think I've mentioned this before. I've probably mentioned it on the podcast a couple of times, but I don't know whether you guys found it as well. But right at the beginning, how daunting it is to your fingers hovering over that publish button.
Yeah,
and you think, should I? I don't know. And then you do, and it's great when I always saw YouTube as a bit of a toxic Wild West place, and that's why I didn't really want to put myself out there. But I still say to this day, one of the best decisions I made in doing that. I mean, it's an extension of the hobby for me. I think Martin said it as well. It's like a hobby in itself, making videos, editing videos, coming up with content. I think it's an extension of the wargaming hobby, and it's exposed me to so many different new games, rule sets, people's channels. So, I mean, if someone had said, "Oh, by the way, when you start a YouTube channel, fast forward, 3 or 4 years, and you've been meeting up with a bunch of people off the internet in Derby." I'd be like, yeah, it doesn't sound like something I'd rather be doing. It sounds quite quite dangerous, actually. But no, it's what I think you get out of it what you put in. And I think I've definitely found that with YouTube, and I'm not as prolific a content creator as I used to be, but I still enjoy it, and I still enjoy the bolt action content. I still enjoy getting people's comments, and really getting contact with the community and people we wouldn't ordinarily wouldn't get to meet. So, like I say, daunting, but I'm really, really glad that I did it.
Brilliant. And who were your, when you first started on the channel, Steve? Who were the channels that you were looking at the time, or were there any around then?
There's 2 channels that motivated me into starting my channel. It's Travis at Tabletop CP, and Ken, the Eccentric Man. They were both doing a lot of bolt action and World War II content, and I think they were the 2 that I sort of looked up to. They were the 2 channels that inspired me to really have a go. And it's great because I know Ken and I know Travis now outside of YouTube. So it's strange how things like that can come about. But yeah, definitely those 2. And then since then, there's been so many awesome channels and so many awesome people as well. But they were most definitely the 2 that really gave me the kick up the arse to go and to start my own channel.
What about you then, Martin? Who were your influences in those early days?
I watched quite a lot of channels, but there was one in particular, and it's because I was playing a lot of Black Powder, and it's a channel, he hasn't put anything up for quite a while, so I don't know if he still does it anymore. But it was Nathan Pancake Payne, and he did lots of Black Powder battle reports in his shed, and he filmed them just off the hip, and just fantastic models, fantastic basing, lovely tables with all the teddy bear fur and all of that. But he was just like a straight talking guy from Nottingham, and he was just really, and I really liked that. And so I started, it was actually that, and it was really that format that I enjoyed. So I was saying, well, he's not got a studio, he's not got, he's got a shed, which but he's got. He's not got. You look at some of the big channels, and yes, I'd love to have that set up. Who wouldn't? That's fair enough. But 75% of people who game don't have that set up. It's a dining room table and some bits of ply or MDF that are put down to create a 6x4. And I thought, well, if he's doing it, then I can have a go. And it was that was he was doing battle reports and project updates, and it was all at the time. Napoleonics that he was doing, so it sort of gave me a big push, because I was just like, people sort of loved the content, and he was always having a good chat in the comments with people, and I was like, well, this is the way to do it. You don't have to have 10 different cameras and lighting set up and stuff like that. Content is content. Good content will shine through. I think that's the way forward. So there was that, and then Leon's channel T66. That was a big push as well. And again, and now so I'm friendly with Leon, and I haven't met him yet. We unfortunately we missed each other, but we chat like now and then, and also because he was doing a Crusades project before he went back down the epic Napoleonic route, and we were chatting, back and forth about because we just seemed to serendipitously start these projects at the same time and doing the same thing, so we were sort of just bouncing ideas off each other, and yeah, I was just amazed really at the way that. Because before this, my wargaming community was my friends, a few local people and my friends. I didn't think that I would be sort of going to shows and meeting people, or ever have people coming up to me. I had someone come up to me for a selfie. That threw me completely. that totally threw me. That was at Warfare. It was lovely. I just didn't know what to do. I was just really confused. I was like, yeah, I'm that guy that loses to his wife. So it was those channels that sort of inspired me forward, and I think it was because I just related to those channels more than I did sort of the bigger ones who were showing off all the the glitzy game rooms or the all the fancy lights and airbrushes and things like that. I found those more relatable.
Going from those early videos that you started, have you invested a lot in new kit, cameras, microphones, that sort of things, or have you carried on in the old school style with you?
So no, not really. Well, I've got a better microphone, which I've sort of I got the microphone a few months ago, and I got a proper boom arm for it, because I had this weird kind of grabby claw thing that I salvaged that I found in on a site somewhere, but my main I just sound. I thought to me sound is more important than video, because I think good sound will carry a bad video, but bad sound won't carry a good. So if a video is good but the sound is awful, you're probably more likely to turn it off, because you just haven't got that engagement. So I've done that, and really I think that's about it. Camera wise, I've got a cat, obviously not a camcorder, but a digital camera that I use, or I just use my phone, because the camera on my phone is better than that. So it films in 4K, so I just figured I'll just use that. It does mean it eats the memory really really hard, but that was it. But unless because I'm filming in my house, and in this little back room, and I haven't got the option of like putting loads of extra lights and things in because I rent. I figure, well, there's no point. There's no point in investing in all this kit that I can't use. I'd rather just spend the time and the money on games and being able to do other things.
And the same for you then, Steve. Are you changed the way that you film over the years? Have you invested in Spielberg-like technology, or you?
I wouldn't say Spielberg. I've upgraded my setup. Everything's been upgraded over the past sort of 18 months. So, new camera, new mic, new laptop, new video editing software, and I think that investment has it's improved my content. I think it's a bit better than it was because when I was using free software, I was jumping between one and the other, and I never really got on with it. But Martin,
Editing,
very, very, very kindly.
I told a lie.
Martin lied.
I lied, and I've just been quite. Yeah, I was using a video editor on my phone for the first year to do my videos, which was a nightmare when you've got wonky thumbs or anything like that. But I bought Filmora. And at the time, it was when I did my first battle report. So if you ever go back and you find the very first battle report, that's actually when I stopped using my phone for editing. Because I was like, this is going to be really long. It's going to take a long time. So I used Filmora. I think mine was Filmora 9 or 10. Which one have you got, Steve? I can't remember.
It's 11 now.
Have you upgraded again?
No, it was a free upgrade.
Oh, what? Oh no. Missed out. So I think I've got.
I think it was anyway. I logged in one day and it prompted me to update. Let me just check I'm going to check my desktop now, actually.
So yeah, Filmora, because it got really good reviews. It's a really powerful piece of editing software, and you can create the videos really, really quickly without too much hassle. And it's got a fantastic library of sort of sounds and not necessarily effects, but things like transitions and that. And it's all drag and drop. But yeah, Steve then picked it up as well.
Yes, I was on the hunt because I was jumping between. I had one that was good at video, but really bad at audio, and then I had one that was really good at audio editing, but the actual video editing was really convoluted and arse about face. So when Martin told me about this, in fact, Filmora was the first time I ever made money on YouTube. That was what I invested it in. So I invested anything that the meager pittance I make off YouTube, everything goes straight back into the channel. So that's largely funded most of the things that I've upgraded. So the channel sort of is paying for itself now. But I'd rather do that and just go out and spend it on coffee or living the high life.
Yeah. So when you're watching video, then what's the most important thing for you? If you're a user and as a content creator, is it because I VK von Ketteringham is the one I always quote, because he just kind of he leans back from the camera because he's quite clearly pressed the on button and just talks, and there's no explosions and rock music or anything like that. So is it the content or is it the way that it's presented? What do you kind of like best, Steve?
It's happy medium. I think it's. I mean, it's just going to sound really, really bad now, but what I can't really endure is wackiness. I don't like I don't like. That's going to make me sound like a right old curmudgeon, isn't it? Oh, I don't like wackiness, but I don't mind people who are humorous because it's natural, but people who are just jumping around like lunatics on, and it's stuff like that. I turn. I mean, thankfully, there's not much of it in the historical circles, but I've seen videos where after 10 seconds, I'm like, I'm not watching this. I'm a grown man.
Yeah, there's some in the fantasy sci-fi genre.
Yeah,
and they would be definitely getting a illegal substance test from me if I was anywhere near them.
But just thinking a bit more positive, and going to the more positive thing, I think people who are just natural when they're doing their content, not trying to be someone that they really aren't, but it's got to be not compelling as such, but just interesting. It's really hard to describe. I think people like what they like, and I'm sure that we've all got channels that we all watch, and then there's some channels that I'll enjoy that somebody else won't enjoy, for example. But for me, I know what you mean about VK. It's very natural, very
yeah,
and his setting isn't half bad as well. So I think that definitely helps him out. But no, I think I'd just say, and like you mentioned before about the explosions and the bells and the whistle. I used to have a metal soundtrack at the beginning of my videos. I took that off many years ago. It's quite calm. The music I use now is quite calming and ambient and relaxing. Although one time I used like jazz music as a background, but it's played really low. And so some dude was like, "Yeah, I like the video, but I could do without the jazz music." I was like, "Yeah, I've taken that on board, mate. That won't be making another appearance on the channel."
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all into a similar style of music. I was lucky enough to be a teenager in the early 1980s, so I was going to see Iron Maiden on like the Killers tour and Number of the Beast and that sort of thing, and Judas Priest and all those bands when I was a kid. But jazz is one thing I have never understood. I heard it described once, and turn your sound down if you've got kids in the room. But I've heard it described as musical wanking.
Yeah, I like
because
that.
everyone's doing their own thing, trying to please themselves and not bothered about anyone else.
I mean, not to take the chat down the musical highway, but I don't mind. I mean, the jazz I listen to, stuff like Thelonious Monk or Charles Mingus, which is, I've always said that Thelonious Monk was, if he put him in a time machine and bring him forward, he'd be a metalhead, because the way he attacks the piano is just it's metal-esque, the way he plays. But don't put jazz on your YouTube channel if you don't want to incur the wrath of people.
It's definitely not good. So Martin, we were just talking before we went down on the jazz train. Nice.
Nice.
About content versus style. So what's your take on that?
I'm going to cop out a little bit like Ste, and I'm going to say I do middle ground, but I do feel that the one thing that will always the one thing that will always put across content is enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone is enthusiastic about a project, you could have no interest whatsoever in a time period. But if someone's enthusiastic about it, it gets your attention, and you want to know, why are they so excited? And then, you watch their video and you look at, I was like, okay, all right, well, just a bit like sort of our stuff, the setup is basic, the models are, they look really, really nice. But this guy, he's enthusiastic. I might go and have a look into this period in history, and then that's the next thing you've got boxes on the way and you're playing a new game, and so for me it's always enthusiasm, because nothing's worse than if you turn on the video and the person on the other end gives less of a shit than you, and you've turned it on, so that's something that always, and I hate to say it, but and not so much in our community, but definitely some of the big channels in wargaming. We're talking ones who have sort of hundreds of thousands of subs. When they get to the point where they're trying to like show you a video and it's clear that they have no interest in it, that they've been made to do it, or that they've accepted a freebie that they then wish that they hadn't because they've had to make the content, it shows. And to me, it doesn't matter how many bells and whistles that you've got and what you're painting. If the person behind it isn't invested in what they're doing, then I'm not going to be invested in that video either.
So, Martin, if next week on my channel you saw that I'd put out a French Napoleonic painting tutorial, what do you reckon the enthusiasm would be?
I imagine that it would be the sort of equivalent of someone crawling across the floor to get at the last beer in the fridge kind of thing at the end of the night. It would be a real sort of like, and now it's the epaulets. You know, and it'd be a real. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I would watch it just because it'd be like torture and it'd be quite funny. So that side of things. But I just you'd be like, I just imagine that every bit would be, just be a sigh as you move on, and then every section would be, I thought I was nearly finished, but I found another bit of piping. So
during the transition, it's just like a subtle undertone of me crying.
This video actually took 6 months to make.
I definitely think personality is very important. I don't know if you know him. There's a historian called Michael Wood.
Yeah.
And he did a series called In the Footsteps of Alexander the Great, and his enthusiasm for the whole thing. I remember him leaping around on some ancient walls in this village in Syria, I think it was, pretending to be one of Alexander's silver shields, and it's just brilliant. And I've said the story on here before. My old history teacher, Mr. Winnington, he used to have a desk at the front of the class that had a loose. They were all the flip up desks that were familiar back when I was a lad. And the desk at the front of the class came off, and it had a hand strap behind it, so he could pretend to be a Roman legionary marching up and down these ranks of desks with his desk pointer as a spear. And brilliant, absolutely brilliant. There we go. So, development-wise, then, Martin, I mean, you're up to 5,000 or something like that.
Yeah, just a bit over 5 now. Yeah, it's
are you doing
up.
Some sort of exotic dancing on TikTok to get those numbers, or
Do you know what? And I'm sure that other people say this. No one is more surprised than me, because I mean, it was going up quite steadily, and and I was just putting out. I just put out the content that I want to do and that I find interesting. I've done a couple of things where people have sent me some things, but I've been offered more, and I've turned down stuff because I have no interest in it, and I don't think my viewers would have any interest in it. And even as much as I would like a new game set, it will just pass through my hands and go onto eBay. So there's no point in me doing it. And I don't want. I would rather the time that I would be investing into that video, I'd rather invest in the video that I want to make. So yeah, it all just went a bit crazy. Really, it's in the last year. It's sort of had a bit of a boost, shall we say? And we obviously the Caesar Award thing helped. That saw quite a few. That was a bit of a crazy week. I was getting quite a lot of notifications. Although when the nominations came through, I got this really sarcastic message from Dom just saying, "Have you seen it?" Because I was actually at work. I hadn't seen the video, and Dom was just like, "Have you seen this? Have you seen this video?" And in a sort of like a grumpy face, I think it was, like emoji. I was like, no. And then my phone pinged again. It's like, I think you need to watch it. And then pinged again, have you watched it yet? And then obviously went through, and I was like, oh, that's surprising. But the one thing that really sort of wound me up about that, the battle report, because of course we don't do the nominations. You could nominate yourself, but you don't know who's nominated you. The battle report I got nominated for, which was lovely. It's basically one that I consider my worst one. That one was a case of me and my friend. It was the first time we met up since lockdown, and we were like, well, we got these massive armies, let's just put them on the table and see what happens. There was no there was no scenario, there was no organisation, there was nothing. We only got to the end of turn 3. That was it. that was it. And I was looking, I was like, oh, I've done the one on the bridge and all that. I've done the one in the bridge, we had to blow that up. I've done the one in the town. There's that one on there. But it was lovely to be nominated. But really, it was when I started seeing things. It was when I started putting up battle reports, but putting them up regular. Basically, when I started doing the black powder stuff with Hayley at lockdown, and that was because I'd always planned to put black powder on there. It's just that we couldn't leave, couldn't go anywhere or see anyone. So she got fed up of me looking sad and moaning, and having to hear about it, and took pity on me. And luckily for me, she actually enjoyed it. So I get quite a lot of messages from people saying, "God, you're just, she's not, she's just, you're paying her or something, or there's something. But she wouldn't do it. You've met her. She wouldn't do it. She would not stand there for 4 hours. I mean, to be fair, I have to buy some booze. She would not stand there for 4 hours and play that game and then have to put up with me because when you're filming it, obviously everything takes just a little bit longer. I try to make it as painless as possible, and I think I've got a pretty good sort of method for how I do things. But if she didn't enjoy it, she wouldn't do it. It's just no way it wouldn't happen.
So just remind us then, how many Caesar awards did you get nominated for? Was it 3?
I got nominated for 3, and the podcast got nominated for 1, but some other git won that one.
Yeah,
you won't mention it.
We'll mention it. No,
won't mention it. But no. I got nominated for 3. I got nominated for the best after action report, best painting video, and then fan favorite channel. And I was lucky enough to win the fan favorite channel one, and it was extra special as well because it was my birthday as well. So I was, we just got back from the cinema, and I was sitting there watching it. And I can't, it was just really. It was just really nice. I don't know. I hate to say it's nice, but it was. And I got loads of messages afterwards from people who said they found my channel through that, and they really liked it, and they hadn't really considered medievals. They're into World War II, but the way sort of I approached medievals made it seem maybe a bit more accessible than they had fought before. And that's all I wanted to do, really. And that's all I wanted to do with the Black Powder battle reports. I just wanted to show people that you don't, as lovely as it is having a big table, we all love big gaming. Except Steve, and as proof. But we all love having that. But some people, you just don't have that possibility. And I just wanted to show that shouldn't put people off buying games like Black Powder, which is it's still a straightforward system, but not everyone likes it. But it's a straightforward game. You could still have 3 brigades. You've got to alter how you play a little bit. You can do things in waves and scenarios, and you can still have a perfectly good game on a 6x4. Don't have to scale down to some smaller scale just to get it. You can, because ultimately, as someone once said, 28mm is dead apparently.
So.
But
I'm
not.
Sure that person will crop up in conversation fairly soon. Just not that I'm a snitch or anything, Martin, but your wife has just sneaked in, grabbed a bottle of alcohol, and sneaked back out again.
Yeah, she has. Yeah. She has. She's had a long day, but no, she's just gone to the fridge. I noticed that she's taken the unopened bottle. And not the one that was half full. She's taken the full one. Yeah. But no, she does enjoy it. And I think actually what's quite nice for me is that Hayley, my long-suffering wife, has really sort of joined and become sort of takes this weird place in the community, because everyone knows her. Like, she gets messages and stuff. Like, I mean, there's been some odd ones, but she gets messages, and then she's commenting back on people and chatting tactics in the battle report things. And I'm sitting there going, hang on a minute, what about me? Come on, I'm the one that lost. And then on the day, like, she, I'm sure we'll talk about CrackCon, but she loved it. She loved seeing everybody gaming, and I think that helped. She got it. She understood why I love it, why we love it as a community, and how much it is community and not just toys. The toys are not, I wouldn't say second to community, but the toys are the vessel to get to the community, and then you all bond over that. So although she'll be in there drinking that bottle of booze now, denying everything probably.
Exactly. Well, couple of things just before we move on to Plastic Crack podcast, and something that content creators suffer from in general. And I wondered what your guys' experience with it was, and that's internet arseholes. Do you suffer from that at all, Steve? Have you had any stalkers in the past?
He's had a great one recently. He's got an amazing one recently.
Excellent.
Oh,
your new friend.
No. Oh yeah, no. That's terrifying. I'm not gonna. Yeah, that's someone's been quite. I'm not going to go into the great details, but someone's been quite forceful in how they want me to present certain things, and I won't be doing it. But I'm not going to go into any detail. No, to be fair, my girlfriend mentioned this quite a lot. She said, even when the channel was very much in its infancy, she said, "What are you going to do? Because it's YouTube, you're going to get, well, arseholes."
Yeah.
And I just said, "Well, I've spent 10 years in customer service, so I know how to. I know all. I know all the cheat codes for assholes. I'm quite good at it." But to be fair, all the time that I've been doing my channel, I could probably count on just on two hands the amount of really awful comments that I've had, and even then they've not been insulting. Well, I think one was really insulting, and the comment I left was about 4 pages long in response to him, because it was a comment on my most popular video. It was about how to build a bolt action army, and I made a comment about just paraphrasing. As an example, I'm using the German army, because this should come as no surprise to anyone in the community who knows that I have painted a lot of Germans. And he took it on himself to sort of paraphrase that I followed a certain ideology.
Ah, right.
And it's probably the only real time I've ever really lost my rag when I've been responding to someone, because it was just I didn't say that. It was completely taken out of context, and yeah, it really annoyed me. For the most part, though, it's mostly been people. I don't think they mean to come across as assholes. I think it's just the way that the way they've written it. I mean, if someone's got valid criticism of the way I've done something, or the way I've said something, or the way I've presented it, fair enough. But I've been quite lucky in that I haven't really had any horrific, awful comments. I think it's because I don't put Napoleonic videos on my channel.
You say that, but I went on that World War II group and asked a question, and I got eviscerated.
Oh, was that about the tankers uniform?
Yeah.
They can. I think in general. I think we mentioned this earlier about rivet counters or button counters. I think there's always going to be that element. I mean, I always remember. I've encountered a couple on Facebook that sort of stick out. But I don't. I mean, sometimes I just don't even bother responding to them. I like the comment and I'll move along. I won't leave a response, because I don't. I think sometimes that's what they're after. I think that after a response, they're trying to bait you into a back and forth argument, and I'm not gonna get involved in arguing about toy soldiers. It's just not my thing. But no, like I said,
I think World War II especially has a lot more rivet counters than many other periods. I think there's a lot of people who will question the model of the variant of your Panzer III very quickly.
I think one of the ones I did a video last year. I worked on a project where I was converting German greatcoats into US Winter Airborne at Bastogne. I loved that project, and everything about it, I really enjoyed it. And people were, it wasn't historically accurate, but from 3 feet away, it's not going to be. I remember some complete and utter gentleman on a Facebook group said they were historically inaccurate. And I just said, well, they're wearing German greatcoats. Of course they're going to be historically inaccurate. I mean, there's no other answer for this. And then he was questioning about medipacks being placed on helmets after 1944. I just thought, to hell with this. I'm just done with you. And I don't mind if people want to critique me. I really don't mind. I just don't. I'm not one. I think we mentioned this last night on the podcast.
I was going to say it was one of the questions, wasn't it, of how much of a rivet counter or how accurate you want to be.
Exactly. And I'm not. I mean, I'm obviously not going to paint, completely wrong colours, just for the sake of saying that they're my toy soldiers. I'm not going to do that. But I'm not going to lose my rag when someone paints something a different shade of grey or green than it should have been. It's just not my style. I would never dream of leaving a comment like that on anyone's video. or Facebook post or blog post, anything like that at all. It's just and it's in my nature. I don't think it's in most people's nature to be like that. I just think it takes a special kind of cretin. If I can call them cretins to be like that. And I mean, maybe I'm going to step down off my soapbox in a minute because I think that's where I am at the moment. But it's a subject that really irks me. It really does. Yeah, but no, I'm just going back to your original question. No, I've been quite lucky in that I've not had any nasty comments.
Yeah. Martin, do you suffer from the trolls?
Yes and no. So I suffer from there are two main types. One is generally only found in the wilds of the battle report comments section. You have to they're in there, and that's when I have no problem with people critiquing my tactics, or even when someone points out, "Oh, you got this wrong at this point. It should be this." Brilliant. But when it gets pointed out with a page number, a quote, and then a sort of a paragraph explaining, why that makes the rest of, say, your battle. I stopped watching it after this because it meant that the game was pointless. Well, all right, good. It clearly wasn't. You are exactly the type of person that I don't want to be watching my video. That this is not for you. Because we always just work on the idea that if we get something wrong in a game, we just carry on playing it wrong until the end of the game. Unless it's something that is going to make a minor difference. But if it's something fairly, we say, well, it's fair then, and we'll correct it next time. I don't like spending ages looking for rules in books. I'd rather get on and play the game. So if we can't find something quick and easy, we'll house rule it, and then 9 times out of 10, you're more or less there when you do it anyway. When you put a house rule on something, you're nearly there. So I get those, and the other type I get. So I do the Wars of the Roses, and the problem is with the Wars of the Roses is that it's also one of its big benefits, which is a lot of the answers are we just don't know. We don't know, but it's amazing how many people do know, and there's there is a certain method behind things like coats of arms. There were rules that people had to follow about who could wear them and how things were set out. You don't turn them upside down and all of this. But the problem is that how much time do you want to spend doing research and how much time do you want to spend doing wargaming? Now, I'm quite happy to spend a lot of time doing research because I love it. It's also part of what I do for my job. So in fact, it's not unknown for me to be in a record office somewhere and I'll be doing some work. And then if I've still got time, I always make sure there is time. I go and have a look through the sort of the local history section and go and have a look at what the sort of the local families and knights and coats of arms are, because is there anybody that I can stick in that unit? But what I will often find is there are people who ask for weird requests. So I've had, Ste knows this, I had someone asking me, I think it was long enough ago now that I could probably say, because if they listen to this, then they'll definitely know who they are, but I don't know if they're going to own up to it. So I had someone ask me if the next time I painted a knight, if I could paint them with blue diamonds on them, and then they would know it was just for them. And
that's nice. That's nice.
I know it's just nice. I sort of replied, it's like, but why? Like, I don't. Do you want me to send it to you? I was so confused. I didn't get it. I also had someone request one of my paintbrushes. I showed Steve that one as well, and Dom that one. I had someone request one of my paintbrushes. I was like, why? Why do you want it?
Is this like an only fans for Wargamers where you
I don't know.
Send your used paintbrushes to people?
But I'm not. Yeah, the ones you've licked. Yes. It was so bizarre. I must say that there are very, very few negative comments, and any of the criticism is constructive, and I find the best way to combat it, especially if someone gets picky about the history, because I do history videos, is I just out history them back. You just find the alternative. You go, oh well, actually, I think you'll find if you read Lewis 98 on this thing, that this point of view is put across. One of my favourite things is, as Steve says, he stuck put medipacks on the helmets. How do they know it wasn't done? So I'm an archaeologist, right? And I can tell you that people will throw away and do any old shit to stuff. I dig up crap. I dig up other people's crap from the last 2,000 years for a living, or stuff that people threw away. And sometimes they were just bored, and they did random things to stuff. Right? We find pots with like all sorts of random things scrawled on them, or we even found. We found some pots once. We're going a bit off. Sorry, I'll get back up. But we found a pot once that had been stabbed. The specialist had put it back together, and you could see the crack pattern. It looked like when a bullet goes through a glass in a film and it shatters out. And then there was this whole sort of, it's been ritually stabbed. They were killing the pot to a piece of glass. I was like, maybe he just hated it. Maybe he just didn't. Maybe he just didn't like it. I'm sorry. I know we're meant to. Oh, it should be great if it's ritual, and maybe it had the art. Oh, I don't know. Maybe something like that. Maybe it was his wife's and he hated it, or it was his mother-in-law's, and and he was just fed up with it on the mantelpiece, and he threw a peelum at it. Who knows? So ultimately, when it comes to the comments and you get those kind of things, you just find that like going back to them and going, yeah, I know, but I wanted to do it this way. What are they going to say to you?
Yeah, I think some of them do it deliberately, don't they? There's some of them who are there to wind you up.
I was just going to say, I think one of the nicest things I've noticed sort of over the more so over the past 2 years is that I'll get people sort of contacting me. I don't know who they are, and they know my channel, but they know my name. And they'll speak to me like we've known each other for ages, and I don't know this person. I think it's that for me far outweighs the arsehole element of it. It's just such a nice experience when you can have a back and forth with someone who's just got in contact because they want to know a certain paint to use, a certain painting technique. Is that I had one a couple of months back. There was a guy contacted me on Instagram because he'd been doing kit bashing. And he said, "I've watched all your videos, and I've had a go myself." And the pictures he sent me were absolutely fantastic. He'd done some bolt action, US airborne kit bashing, very similar to what I'd done, but again, completely different to what I've done. He'd just taken his own slant, his own creativity, and they were brilliant. So I think, I that outweighs the sort of the negativity for me so much.
I'd have to agree with that. There was a young lad who got in contact with me about painting, and his English wasn't particularly good, and so I just said, "Oh, whereabouts are you?" just as a passing comment, and he was from South Korea, so we ended up sending messages to each other for ages, talking about wargaming in South Korea. What a lovely lad, and amazing that you're speaking to people on the other side of the world, sharing absolutely your joy for the hobby. It's absolutely amazing. So we'll draw a line under your channels there, and we'll move on to the more controversial subject of the Plastic Crack podcast. And I don't know whether you've got anything that you want to put right from Ken and Dom's interview. Do you guys do you guys remember or aware of Gumbo Liam?
I met him once.
I've never met him.
Right.
I remember him I remember watching the show and him being on it, and then I remember asking. If I ask every now and then, like, "Oh, what's he doing?" And Ken's like, "Yeah, well, he's fine." So I'm not utterly convinced that Ken hasn't just like killed him. I don't know. Like he just went missing. I haven't seen any evidence, like other than those shows. I haven't seen any other evidence that he exists.
Do you know what the funniest thing? Remember the first CrackCon, and we were in that Indian restaurant, and Ken went, "I was meant to pick up Liam."
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
And then he went, "Oh no, he's not. He sold his ticket." And I was like, If you did have to go and pick him up, you may have a problem because he's in Southampton, we're in Derby, and it's 7:00 at night. But it was just the look of sheer panic on Ken's face was just an absolute picture.
It was joy. It was joy. So I remember seeing him on the stream, and I kept on expecting him to sort of appear in those early episodes, and that we were doing things, and then he didn't. So
Yeah, we spoke briefly about him in the opposite episode with Dom and Ken, and I've my contacts in the FBI have been looking for him since that moment in time, and they've not found him. I think, in fact, I think they found Osama bin Laden before they found Gumbo Liam. So if you're out there, Liam, we're thinking of you, mate. That's all. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. So, which of you two guys ended up on there first then?
Steve.
Me.
Steve. So let's go with your your origin story then. How did you end up on the show?
I think prior to actually going on there, me and Dom used to follow each other on YouTube because he likes his bolt action, and I'd leave comments and he'd leave comments on mine, and then just randomly out of the blue, he sent me a message on Facebook saying, "Did I want to go and be a guest on the what back then was just called, was it Fools Gassing or Two Fools Gassing?"
Yeah.
So that's when it was. So I said, yeah. I mean, back in the early days, I had my laptop was older than Jesus, so some weeks it struggled.
Yeah.
Doing live streaming, so I think I was notorious for having the worst technology in the entire world. But I persevered and I struggled on. But no, so I think it was Martin. Was it 3 or 4 weeks or two, 3? It wasn't long after, was it?
No, so my second daughter had just been it was only about 6 months old because it was in lockdown, and that was the whole reason they were doing it. And it was starting to get warm, so me and my wife would just be sitting outside having a drink, and I'd be listening to it, and she'd be like, "What is this that you're listening to?" And she started finding it funny as well. And I liked it because I at the time, well, I knew who Dom was. I didn't know who Ken was, and I just enjoyed it, and it seemed easier. And at the time, I wasn't, well, we're not big YouTubers now, but I mean, I wasn't. I was just putting out those little painting videos, and so it was quite like, I think it took me ages before I actually put a comment in the live chat. I was like, oh, don't know what to say, and then I made a point, and then Dom called me out in the video because I don't know if you guys remember. So Beckus, when he wasn't very well, and the chaps organised, organised a Beckus commands where they got YouTubers to just make a command group, and I made one, and I did it. I think I did 3 videos on it. I did one about, like, it's been like, actually, come to think of it, that's what I'm doing with my Warwick base at the minute, just copying that anyway. I did one about the composition and the models I'm going to pick, then I did one about painting them, and then I did one about basing them and just how I wanted to get it. And on it, I had a French Fusilier bayoneting a British Napoleonic chap, and then Dom, they were talking about, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And Dom went, oh, have you seen that one that Seventh Son? Because he didn't know my name then. He said that one that Seventh Son did, and I was listening to the podcast. I was like, oh, they're going to show it. He goes, and I think Leon was on that episode actually, and Leon was like, oh yeah. He said, it looked cool, didn't it? Because I had these cuirassiers riding over like an entrenchment, and shells had gone off. And then Dom just went, yeah, but did you see what he's done? He's got that bloody French thing, and it's skewering that poor British. It's just the wrong side. And I think that's what I commented. I went, there is a French casualty on there as well, and I got a comment back saying something like, yeah, but you can't see it as well as you can the British one. and then that kind of broke the ice. And then he sent me. I left a comment. I think I just said, great show. And then he just put, you'll have to come on sometime. And I just said, well, just send me just let me know when. Send me a message and I'll come on. And then I went on and did an episode, and then they asked me and then because we were chatting Wars of the Roses and Perry's and that, and it became very evident how much I like the Perry miniatures, and then they had them on the next episode. So like, do you want to meet the Perrys? I was like, yeah. And then I think for that episode, if you watch it, I just sit there with my mouth open, and that's about it. And then I was like, do you want to ask any questions? I was like, don't draw attention to me. I just want to sit and look. But that was it. And then I went away for a few weeks. I think Steve went back on, didn't you? And
I went back on not long after. And then, do you know what? I don't even know. how we just permanently ended up on there.
Well, we ended up doing a stream together on there, so it was the four of us. And then I just don't think we left.
No, we didn't.
We didn't leave.
We just invited back the following week.
We never actually, but they invited us back every week. They actually got in touch with us. They'll say that they won't. There's no way they'll admit to this, but they actually did invite us. We didn't just stay and log on. We couldn't. They invited us every week because at the time we were doing it through Discord. It was horrendous. So he had to send us. Ken or Dom had to send us the link because me and Ste didn't know what we were doing, and then Ken said, "Oh, do you want to cast it on your channel as well?" Oh, okay. And that's when we were running it simultaneously. So we'd have people in different chats. And then I remember it was Ken just saying, I think this is, or actually it might have been Dom. Anyway, one of them said, "Oh, this is, this seems like a good setup. Do you guys want to just carry on?" And we're like, "Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Why not?
Like Martin always said, we were invited on, and we never actually ever left. I think we're technically still squatting. I think.
Well, we are, but I think now if you add it up, if you take into account holidays, I think me and you have been in more episodes than them. Even if you take away the early ones, I think we've actually done more because, of course, we get our annual episode.
Oh
which
yes.
is me and you, which is the best episode.
You always do the best as well, if I remember.
Yeah. We do.
It's once a year when Ken and Dom they jet off to where they go to, and we're left, and we've got no one to question us, and we've even got our own intro now as well.
I did. I did get the traditional intro and just bastardized it with with some heavy metal that I found. But the great thing was that everyone was saying, "Can this be the real intro?" Like, can you make this the real intro? Like, and then I just remembered there's a comment from Dom because he must have just caught part of it and just went, "No." so we keep that one for special occasions. But yeah, it just kind of happened quite organically, and I know Dom has said this, and I think he said this on there. Is we all just got on. And we've all got very different projects and very different ways of doing things, and I think that helps quite a lot. And we all just got on, and it was just like four mates chatting in the pub, and that's what it became. And then because at the beginning they were more interview sort of ones because they were asking me and Steve loads of questions because I think they asked each other questions for the first like 4 episodes and they ran out of anything to say, and that's when they started looking for I think they had the idea of let's bring in some other YouTube people, and that it all kind of just went from there, and we got on, and then the infamous Facebook Messenger chat group got created, and it's still the same chat group with just the 4 of us in it. It's I mean, to be fair, we could scroll back to the earliest message, but there's some odd things in there. There is some odd stuff in there.
I can imagine.
It's mostly me just tormenting Dom with what weird fruity beers I'm drinking.
Oh no, not weird fruity beers. But some of the IPAs that are out and about at the moment. Oh my word! It's like eating a florist.
Oh, I could talk and drink IPAs all night. I really could.
I'm drinking an IPA right now. It's an Aldi knockoff called 10-4. It's quite nice. Quite nice.
And I think that is one of the great things of the show is the mix of the people, and you're all fairly positive people as well. Sometimes you can listen to a podcast and it's moan this, moan that, moan this, moan that, whereas you're all quite tolerant of each other's weird shit.
Yeah. I think we make, as a group, quite a conscious effort. I mean, we've called out. I say we called out companies, but when we do the news section, if we think that someone's doing something stupid, we say they are, whether or not we like that company or not, because ultimately we're not in a position where we're going to be losing some sponsorship of some massive company, and ultimately, and that's why we will still say, "Oh, Games Workshop has done this thing. I quite like it. I'm not going to buy it, but I like it, and I'm going to put it on here." And then also when Warlord Games did something, I can't remember what it was that I went absolute. It was when they announced Epic, didn't I? I got in the right spot. I got in the right Well, it was epic. It was running, and that's epic. Waterloo. I got in a right strop about it because I was just like, why, why again? Why Waterloo? And then, but we'll always, try, and we try and see that in the comments as well. Like generally, we'll put something up, and because you'll see some comments in there sometimes which are a bit like, oh, not worth the money, or but it is to someone. It is worth that to somebody, and we try quite hard to be not poo-pooing it just because it's not our cup of tea. I mean, we'll have a laugh and a joke about it, but ultimately it's there for someone. And the thing is, if we're not positive about the hobby, we're not going to grow the hobby. We're a niche within a niche. And that's partly why I'm sure again, crack on is there's no point in putting people off. You want people to come and game and encourage people to do it. I think that's what we try to do in the podcast.
Yeah, I've talked a couple of times about the epic scale stuff, and it's one of those things where you can get a box and it's everything you need for a game. Very much when I was a young lad, there was an Airfix set that came out with a model of LaHaye Saint, 4 boxes of plastic figures, and the number of people I know who started their hobby with that box set and moved on from there to thousands of figures in a custom built shed and
Yeah.
most of your adult life painting figures, that sort of stuff. So the community, the PCP community is an amazing thing, and I'm kind of on the outside of it in the comments section. But you've got a lot of people who have been following you for a long time and are there most weeks. And it's built up and it continues to build. I mean, obviously positive, but how does that feel?
For me, it's the way I think about it is it's just for. I know Ken says it like this all the time, but at the end of the day, it's just 4 mates chatting about the hobby for 2 hours every week, and we've somehow sort of nurtured a community around that. But now there's communities within the community. So we've got the OCP. So they're the guys that do their own sort of painting competition, and it's it's still a bit of a not a shock as such, but the way that it's grown. And you're right. When we've got regulars that tune in every single week, and they post regularly in the comment section. We've met a large majority of them in real life, and I think there was one moment at the first CrackCon. It was about half an hour into people playing, and I was at the back of the shop, and I just looked out. And I just saw everyone really just having a good time, laughing, joking. And this was we'd been through 2 years of a pretty crappy time. And just to see all these people who'd taken time out of their weekends to travel to Derby and hang out with 4 people they'd never met before, and just throw some dice and play some games. It just literally, I was grinning like a Cheshire cat. It was just what was one of those. It was like a real visceral moment, just seeing all these people coming together for that day or that weekend to throw some dice around with some people they really only knew through the internet. They knew through usernames or people on the Facebook group. And for me, I think that was when I realised that we've built something really quite awesome. When I saw that moment.
Yeah, no, it is good to see. It is very good to see, and this is by no means a criticism, but it did seem to be kind of something like a happy accident. CrackCon. Did somebody just kind of mention it for a laugh, and then it happened?
So the way CrackCon come about. Now I can't remember when you had them on before. I can't. So let's just put the record straight, just in case it was said that this was some grand plan of one of the other two. let's just set the record straight here. The entire thing was a complete accident. The way it came about was, we were doing it every week. We were doing the stream every week. I think we did it well. because the first season we do it by year. So 2020 was season 1. So 2021 was the first one we did. We did a full year, and I think quite early on we were like, oh, the lockdown might end. I mean, obviously it didn't end for quite a while at that point, but then it was like, oh, would it be great, like, to all meet up? What would we play? And we used it as a discussion point. I think it was a discussion, like, if we met up, like, what would we play? And then we argued, and this was live, and it's built up quite organically because we were even talking about this last night. I mean, when the guys started it, they had 12 people watching on their first one. Last night we had 141 watching live, and commented, can't keep up with the chat, which is just crazy. I don't know how we've done that. Basically we said, oh, we'd like to meet up. What would we play? And then the next one was like, oh, when would we meet up? Where would we meet up? And then in the comments, we just started to notice, can I come? I'd love to see that. Can you stream it? Can you stream it? That'd be an amazing video. Yeah, and all this. And we'd started the Facebook group. Well, actually, I think it was Ken who put the Facebook group together. And then we launched it in the January of 2021. But we didn't actually sort of come up with CrackCon until the May. And what happened was we before the stream one day we just sat down and I think we could actually do this. Like, could we do it? And I was lucky enough to be in contact with Ian from Boards and Swords, Boards and Swords Hobbies Bash, because he had sponsored some giveaways on my channel. And he liked my content, so I knew they had a gaming area, so I kind of got in touch with him, and he was up for it because he loves historicals, but he won't make any money in his shop on historicals. It has to be, he sells a lot of 40k and a lot of other fantasy things, or hashtag weird shit, if that's what you want to call it. But his main passion is historical gaming, so the thought of having these people in here playing historicals was great to him. So he told us what it would be. And the great thing about it is that he's handling all the insurance. We don't have to do that. We give him the money. We're hiring that venue space, and that whole side of things has taken the stress off of us for that bit anyway. So we had a bit of a chat about it, and we said, oh, maybe we should do it. Maybe we shouldn't do it. And then we actually ended up having a serious conversation, didn't we, Steve? Yeah. I think we actually did we schedule like a.
We had a bit of a conference.
We had a conference call, like all right, guys, it's not Monday, but it's like a Thursday. We need to chat. So, oh God, that's not one. I don't know. I know she lets me go on a Monday. What's going to happen on Thursday? And we had this chat, and we're like, yeah, we're going to do it. And then how are we going to do it? And then we had the so I'm gonna. This is something I'm going to set the record straight about. So the name CrackCon. Ken always tries to, well, I think he's set. I think he's been called out now, but he'll try and say it was him who got the name. It wasn't. It was actually my wife. It was Hayley. So what happened was I went and told Hayley, and and so after this meeting, I went and sat down, and I was like, I think we're going to try and actually do the gaming day. And she looked at me and she went, what are you on about? What gaming day? What are you talking about? And I said, the Plastic Crap podcast. And she just laughed in my face. And she just said, what are you going to call it? CrackCon? I went, yes. And that was it. That was it. So that was Hayley who came up with that, and then I think she couldn't actually believe that we went through with it. I can't, but also I think Boards and Swords is probably the only place that'll let us call it that.
Yes.
And get away with it. And then we just started organising it, didn't we? We didn't know about tickets. We limited the number of sales for the first one, because we didn't know how many people would come. We thought, but it sold out. It sold out in like a week.
Well, you guys had never done a show before. You'd not even met each other before. Is that right?
No.
None of us had met Ste. I'd met Ken. I hadn't met Dom or Ste. So we didn't even know if we'd actually like each other in person. We could have all just hated each other. We all of a sudden had all these people I mean, people were hugely generous companies, and they sent us loads of stuff. So the people who came to CrackCon 1, they walked away with God knows how many sprues and freebies and all sorts, and that's how the raffle came about. Really, it was just because we had so much stuff sent to us. You ask Steve where the elephants came from for his big snail. He didn't buy those. And it was just a bit mad, wasn't it, Steve?
I think for me it sunk in when I was getting onto the train to Derby. I thought, the bloody hell am I doing? I'm just about to meet a bunch of people that I've never met before. To roll some dice, never have a good time in Derby. The first time I met Ken was outside the train station in Derby, and literally 5 minutes later, we were stood in a model railway shop.
Oh dear. He dragged you into his fiddle yard.
Oh yes, yeah. I had to call I had to call a constable 5 minutes later. I was a bit perturbed by that. No, he'd spied this model railway shop on the way in, so he met me. And then literally 5 minutes later, we were stood in a model railway shop, and I was like, "Welcome to CrackCon. This is great."
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if say, and hopefully, if one of my daughters, when they're in their old years, said, "I've met a bunch of people on the internet, and we're going to meet up in a travel lodge in Derby," be like hell you are. What are you doing? You don't do that. What's going to happen in it? But we all willingly were like, yeah, it's going to be fine.
Well, these are stories that we've had a few times on the podcast, and my introduction to wargaming groups, I was booking a wargaming book out of the library in Northwich, and the librarian said, "Oh, are you into wargames? We've got a wargames group. Do you want to join?" And just turned up at this random place with all these people I'd never met, and it's the start of a serial killer story.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
I know it's like if it was made into a film, people would be like, "Don't do it," But the amazing thing about it is, and I think we start to feel confident in the community, and that we've got like a little community within the community. It's great. The people on the PCP are, and if you're in the group, and obviously we kind of mainly focus on historicals, but it's an open door. Post whatever you want. Good painting's good painting, and good game is a good game. Post what you want. We don't care as long as you're able to have a bit of a, your tongue firmly set in your cheek. Go for it. And I don't know. That just seemed to
you'd draw the line at an armored knight on top of a snail, wouldn't you? You wouldn't go that far.
Do you know what? He sent us the picture of that in the group, and I was just stunned. I showed Hayley, and Hayley was stunned as well. She was like, "What's he done?" I was like, "I don't know. It's so awesome, but so I don't know if he's all right." Yeah,
I think it was like when I was doing that elephant, and it was I remember it was a Saturday afternoon. I was like, "What can I do to this? What can I do to it?"
What can I do to this?
Yeah,
it's like that's what a serial killer would say.
I don't want it to look like an elephant. And I was trying all sorts of bits and pieces, and then I just thought, sod it. Just get on with it, as Ken would say. So I just got on with it, and I was ploughing away for ages. And when I finished, I was like, that looks really weird. Because, well, it's an elephant with Oz tail, and it's covered in boils and tufts. And there's a bloke on its back with a musket sniper rifle.
Yeah, but I have to say that in my, what are we on now, 43 years in this hobby, there is very little that could shock me or surprise me. But the armored snail, I have to say that it was like a left hand, right hand brain thing where half of my brain was going, "Wow, that's absolutely fantastic," and the other half was going, "I really don't know what's going on here."
I'm scared. I'm alone. Am I awake? Yeah, no, that's
morning,
usually what happens when he posts anything in our little message.
It's like some alien had come down from the sky and showed me something from the fifth dimension that my tiny brain just could not comprehend.
When I ordered that, it was a Monday morning. I was on a break, and I just thought, right, I need a snail. So I went to Amazon and I bought it. I was like, that looks kind of. I didn't really have an idea of the size and the dimensions of it, but I bought it and I went my next house. I said to my girlfriend, I just bought a garden snail, and she's like, "But you've not got a garden." I said, "I'm not using it for gardening." And then when it showed up, it was a classic Amazon delivery. The box must have been about 6 foot long. Then in that box, there was a 3 foot box, and in the 3 foot box, there was like an 8-inch box, and in the box was the snail. It was like it was bizarre, but I actually, as soon as I finished work, I was like, right, I'm getting this done. I got the cork, I got the base, and it only took about half an hour to put together. And then I painted it the following day. It took about an hour to paint, and then about another hour to slop all the Vallejo mud all over it.
Oh,
but
definitely, is it going to be part of a unit?
It is
having a 12 snail unit or something like that.
No, it is. It's genuine. It's genuinely a gaming piece. In Turn It 28, there's a cult called the Knights of Shellwood, and they're all on giant snails.
Brilliant.
But you suffer. You don't move very far on them.
Yeah, you don't get a charge. You don't really get a charge.
You don't. No, you don't get movement. All you get, I think, is you get additional. I've not actually ran them because I didn't bring the snail to the second CrackCon. I was worried for its general health and safety on the journey there.
That was my biggest disappointment. I wanted to see it,
and I think I'll bring it. I honestly think there might be a bit more people interested in Turn It 28 at CrackCon 3, no matter what Dom says to poo it. But him and Don were saying. I mean, Don wanted to put screens up around my table to protect people from from the weird influence of weird shit.
So how many people were at that first CrackCon then? What was the
35 including us. 35 including us. Well, that's how many there were, and I think there were a couple of dropouts. I know there were, and unfortunately, someone I think tested positive, and someone else just couldn't make it because of life. And it was just utterly bizarre. I mean, we all sat down in the bar in the Travelodge drinking on the Friday night, and then we disappeared to go make up all the party bags, as they are. Like, you know, that took a lot longer the first time because there was so much stuff. And then we were there bright and early, panicking on the Saturday, like, what's it going to do? And then that took Hayley basically telling the four of us to just not worry about it, like just walk away and go to the gaming tables and let her handle the administration. She can't see, but she's just stuck her face against the window here to try and freak me out because she can hear me talking about her. She, I know Dom said this as well, and she's my wife. But Hayley did do an awful lot with spreadsheets. She likes a spreadsheet, and we just said, the raffle is yours. Have at it. Run it however you want. There were 35 or thereabouts, and then I think about 25 of us went out in the evening afterwards and painted Derby. Oh, I would say we painted it red, maybe a mauve, maybe a light burgundy. Yeah. It was bizarre. These people who'd never met, they'd only chatted in a live stream, had a whole, we did 8 hours of gaming and then probably about 10 hours of drinking. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic. People have become firm friends, and now there are people who met on that day, and they're now doing battle reports and things together. So Robin, who I play in my current Wars of the Roses games, in our little campaign, I met him at CrackCon, and I found out he only lives in Ipswich, which isn't very far away from me. And then Miller, who I had been chatting to on there, I didn't know where he lived though. It turned out he only lived in Essex, which isn't a million miles. So the three of us are sort of trying to sort out games. And then you're not that far away from Jim, are you, Steve? You're
No,
fairly close up there.
Jim, Steve, the Jameses. So, like I mentioned earlier, we've set up our own Reet Northern group for some Reet Northern gaming with flat caps and whippets.
Oh, awesome. So it obviously went well because CrackCon 1 became CrackCon 2.
Yes. Well,
Oh.
that was bizarre. So that
happened quickly. That happened really,
very quickly.
Very quickly.
That happened because we were just the other side of Christmas, weren't we?
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, should we do it again? Should we wait till October, or should we do it early? No, we'll do it early because Salute isn't on this year, so we'll go and do it then. And people wanted it, but we'll just do this one, and we'll do it in May because that's a better time to do it. So yeah, we put the tickets out, and then it sold out in a day. Oh, and then actually no, sorry, it was sold all but one ticket in a day, and then one ticket lingered on for ages. And then we put the numbers up, and we did 50 people. And the thing is, the ticket includes your lunch and unlimited caffeine all day, and you're also in you're a very, very nice shop with a lot of shiny things in there, and then again there was this sort of you're organising like a night out, and you're kind of like, well, the actual CrackCon is technically the gaming day. The night out is now just become synonymous with the gaming day. People are coming for that, like we're some kind of 1830 reps for Derby.
Yeah, you have your own little group of people that you have to chaperone around the pubs.
Well, we only chaperoned one person around the pubs this time, and that was our colleague Ken, who I'm sure he won't mind me saying on here, he rather overindulged himself on the Baileys, shall we say, and regretted it severely the next day. I've never seen anyone sweat cloudy beads of sweat.
I have to say, he did look very peakish on the Sunday morning. When we all departed.
When I came down, I just looked at him. I thought, bloody hell, that he had a night out just written all over his face. He looked battered, absolutely battered.
I was savouring every minute of it, because on CrackCon 1 it was me and Dom that got proper battered. Now I'm very fortunate, because I'm one of those annoying people that doesn't really suffer from hangovers, but I did make an arse of myself in evening, because I was just having so much fun, and that was a great thing, is also everyone was just fun. Everyone was so drunk, and with total strangers, that were trusting to look after each other.
And despite what people say, I wasn't dancing to take that. I just want that on the record, like a permanent record, that you may have seen me doing something, but I wasn't dancing, and it wasn't Take That was playing.
See, I think Haley will say otherwise, but
lies, all lies.
But I mean, I may have gone and woke up Ken at 3 a.m. and then charged into his room, make it just making noises at him. They probably meant more to him than they did to me. I had to be told about it the next day. But then it turned into CrackCon 2, Crack Harder. We were trying to think of names, and then we were like, oh, we're not going to sell these. But it's just the same thing, because we don't believe that people are actually. I don't know why we feel this way. We're like, oh god, we're never going to sell 50, and they just went.
I was going to say, was that a big surprise? Because they just flew out of the window, didn't they?
It was a big surprise and slightly daunting at the same time. Because we wanted to do a couple of things. We wanted to sort of put on some bigger games, and then we were like, oh god, we've got to do it. 50 people have bought tickets. We've got to do it, lads. We've got to get this sorted out. And this time we couldn't. We didn't really feel that we could ask, because these companies only 6 months before had just given us loads of stuff, and we'd given it all away, because we never thought we'd do another one, so we gave it all away. The sensible thing would be to keep some of it back. No, we got rid of all of it, and so there was a few people who were very, very generous. Offensive Miniatures and Bloody Miniatures, they sent us some sets, and there were the Perrys did, they sent us some bits, but then people just bought stuff along, like you, people attending. They just bought things along for this charity raffle, and we decided that any excess proceeds from the sale of tickets and the t-shirt sales, which we were doing, and the dice that we were selling, and would go to charity. And we picked the charity Mind for the first one, because we talked about. I think in one of our, we must have had a serious moment in one of our episodes, and we were talking about things like mental health and wargaming and the lockdown, and Mind came up, and there are a few people in the chat and who else we know who had suffered, and Mind had been a big help, and we wanted to support that if we could, and it seemed like a good thing to raise money for. So we did the charity in the raffle in the first one, and put the excess money in, and we raised, I think it was £300. And then we said, we'll do the raffle again. Bring along any wargaming stuff you don't want, but the rules are it's got to be serviceable. You can't just bring along your half clip sprues, And then we got there. And I totaled it up, and there must have been about £1,000 worth of stuff there.
Yeah,
in that. And then Ian from Bash gave us the new Hero Quest, all these Flames of War starter armies, the epic stuff. It was huge, and this year we raised £500. This year, the last one we did £500 for Mind, which is fantastic, and that was all off the back of the raffle and the sort of the excess ticket sales and the dice and stuff. I just couldn't believe it. And so, that was really nice. There's something positive. Like, it's all positive, but it was nice to sort of like give something back as well. But when it came to the second one, we were a bit like, there's no way we're going to be able to do everything that we did in the first one, because, and then it just turned out, well, we don't have to. We'll just do things a bit differently this time, and it'll be a different experience. So, and I think that's what we got.
Yeah, it was. I was lucky enough to come along, and I had a really good time. Great bunch of guys playing on my table, and really friendly atmosphere there as well. So it was a really good day out.
Well, we popped you right at the front. You were the game that everybody saw when people came in. That was fantastic. That worked to our benefit as well, because people walked in and they got to see like 100-man pipe blocks. And the cavalry there, and then as they went further back, it became weirder and weirder and weirder until you got to Ste in the back corner.
Some guy in a big trench coat in the back going, "Come and have a look at this! Come and have a look at this!
Do you want to come and see some turnips?"
I wondered what you were going to say then.
But it's not ending there, is it? It's not ending there, ladies and gentlemen, because you have just announced.
Yeah, we're doing it again.
Yeah, we're doing it again. I'm going to do a Ken here, and I'm going to take the blame for this one, because we did it. We're like, no, we're not going to do it again. We're not going to do it again. It's a load of hard work, and it's a bit stressful, and blah blah blah. And then there was only a few days afterwards, and I was sitting there. I was like, I had a really good time though. I had a lot of fun. And now I was like, well, we've got all of this templates. We know what we're doing. And then the only reason that we were sort of a bit like, we do it, is because you don't want to keep approaching manufacturers. You check manufacturers for support and things. But then I sat there, I was like, well, hang on a minute, because the goodie bags that everyone gets, we put those together. They don't come off the back of anything else. We sort all of that out. So do we have to have a raffle? If you don't get enough stuff for a raffle, then just don't have a raffle. And I was sitting there thinking about it, and then so I think I rang Dom first, because he seemed like the most pliable. So I said to Dom, I was like, I think we could do it. Would you be up for it? And Dom at the time, I think, was a bit sort of like, oh God, why? And then he sort of slowly thought about it, and then we had a word with Ste, and then Ken, and we just thought, we said on one of the streams, didn't we, a few weeks back, we just said, well, what we'll do, look, because we had people banging on about another one, and we were like, look, okay, the only way we'll do it is if at least 25 people want to come, because then plus us 5, that's 30. And then it's worth doing. Ian, who runs the shop, he wants us back there every month, so there's no way he's not going to have us back. And so I got in touch with him, and he was like, yeah, definitely, you got these dates. So we put a vote up on the Facebook page, and yeah, it was overwhelmingly yes, please do another one. I think there was 75, 80 people who were like, yep, do it.
It was definitely... The thing is, though, between us, we couldn't think of a reason not to do it.
Yeah,
there was no reason why we couldn't do it again, because the previous two have been some of the best gaming experiences that I've had over the years. Just immense fun. And like Martin said, when we did a CrackCon 2, we were like, okay, let's leave it for a year, see what happens. We don't want to. And then within 3 or 4 weeks, we're already planning CrackCon 3.
I know. But we just got to come up with a name. There's a couple that have been... I don't even think I can say them on this podcast. But
do you know, I was going to say the best reaction to the name CrackCon was just after we had CrackCon 1. We had Mel, the terrain shooter, as a guest on our podcast. And we were just talking about it. And I had to happen to mention CrackCon. And he was like, hold on a minute, mate. You called your convention CrackCon, and we were like, yeah.
Yeah. that, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's obviously some potential double meanings for that. A long time ago, in the early 80s, there's a famous story of a Wargames group from the Channel Islands who brought a massive castle for a display game. I think it was at Salute or Colours, and it was all built up on sculpted terrain and everything. And they got dragged in at customs at the port, and the guys at customs were drilling into the board, and of course all this white powder was coming out of it.
Oh, no.
So they apparently they just made it to the show with like minutes to spare to set up, with a couple of holes in, because they'd managed to persuade the customs and excise that it wasn't cocaine and it was in fact just powdered polyfiller.
Oh,
dear.
So at least you've not had that. So CrackCon 3 then, it's is it going to be very similar to 2, or is it more tickets, same venue? What are we looking at?
We're going bigger. There are more.
Yes.
There are more. So they're going to be going on sale on the 1st of July. The date is going to be the 15th of October. 2022, Saturday the 15th. I believe the Travelodge has still got stuff in it, although when we announced it, there were people booking the Travelodge before we'd even put tickets out. So that was a bit crazy. That poor Travelodge, those poor people who work in that Travelodge must hate us.
I know.
To be fair, we put more money through that Travelodge in probably one night than they get the rest of the year. But we will ring ahead and ask them for some better tea.
Yeah, you can say that, Martin, but them bastards nearly froze me to death.
The truth.
So,
yeah, because when I first met you in the bar, you were like you just started to defrost.
Oh yeah, just for those who don't know the story in the podcast, I got there, got up into the room, lovely room. The aircon was on, nice and cool. And I thought, oh, that's lovely. That is, I'm quite enjoying that. And then I tried for the next 2 hours to turn the aircon from -3 or whatever it was on, and it just wouldn't move. And I was getting to the point where I was, that you're so cold you're involuntarily shaking. And then they moved me to another room, and it did exactly the same thing. So I was getting to the point where I thought I was going to get thrown out. And then they moved me back to the original room and turned the aircon off. So and then I was downstairs thawing out because it was just so cold in that room. And that's when Ste came downstairs.
I was on the hunt for coffee.
Yeah, who's this guy who looks slightly blue in the bar? Oh dear. So, are you looking for games? Do I need to bring some figures again?
Yeah, no,
yes.
we do. So it looks like we're. I'm not going to, just because I might get called on numbers, because we're still just finalising a couple of things. There will be more. So we did 50 last time, so there will be more. But we're looking for big participation games again. I know we've got a big English Civil War this time that we're going on. Don is also wants. I think he's going to help me do big water roses again, because everyone's just been painting up so much stuff for it. It'd be, we might as well just put a thing on there. There seems to be some grudge match now between the chaps who played a Big Black Powder game at CrackCon 1, and we kind of, I think half of them didn't know how to play, and we kind of taught them. And then at CrackCon 2, they kind of had a grudge match. And then at CrackCon 3, it's like they're going for it again. So I think they're going to just have a game every time we put on a gaming day, and just to
these are the guys who are like escalating the size of their armies, aren't they? It's like an arms race between them.
Yeah,
which is brilliant to see.
It's fantastic. And then basically anyone who just wants to run a game, and I don't know how you're going to feel about this. So my friend Luke is actually coming along. He'll be running Burrows and Badgers, because there's so many people who are into that, who have painted up the badgers, and even young Dominic has done that.
You do realise that I have a reputation to keep.
If you're going to lose that reputation anywhere, mate, it's going to be in Derby with us.
I've already been seen in a room with Turnip 28. I'm involved in a international grudge match war game with the Little Wars TV lot in 6mm. So I'm going to be seen at a 6mm table. My reputation is
it's going to be shot, Ken. It's going to be shot.
Yeah. I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to put a 3,000 or 4,000 figure game on for you guys and get it back.
By all means,
bring it back out of the gutter. Bring it back out of the gutter.
I think I've been challenged to a game. I think I've been challenged to a game of an actual game of bolt action at CrackCon 3. So
have you?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Phil, he said he wants to see my either my 11th Armored Division or my US Tank Destroyer platoon.
See, I'm really torn about what to do. Part of me wants to run a big game, but then I've run 2 big games now. I quite like to run maybe a smaller game and actually wander around, because that's the only thing. Like Dom did the wandering around this time. Ken did it the first time.
Yeah.
And I just quite fancy having a wander.
Well, the past two, I've ran smaller skirmish sort of odd games. So I did Firefight the first one, and then Turnip 28 the second one. So I think this time I might just have a morning or afternoon just playing a 3-hour game of bolt action with Phil, with some nice figures and some nice scenery, and not a snail in sight.
Because it's got kind of I think it's more like an American show feel, because people are going there for the games rather than, the likes of Salute and Colours, where you're going for shopping and to look at games.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, because we're doing it in the shop. Well, first of all, it wouldn't be fair to Ian if we let other traders come in. Although, I think he already said, because we had the guys demo. He organised us having Warwick in demoing or playing Soldiers of Napoleon for people to see, and Simon Miller has offered to come and demo to the Strongest. The only reason he didn't come this time is because he hadn't finished his Renaissance rules, so he didn't dare show his face. I don't think, because I think
he's been quizzed on those rules on this show as well. Yeah. So, have you got a ban on him coming back on your show until he's finished? Because we're trying to push him on.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. He's like, I'll come back anytime and I'll have it finished. And I was like, well, when shall I get in touch with you? He said, oh, how about, maybe late 2022. So I was like, 2023 then? I don't know. I was trying to be a bit cheeky. I think, pretty much just the more the better now, isn't it? Yeah. Really, games wise. And that's the thing, like they're all open slots. So people just turn up and you're like, yeah, people say, oh, what are you playing? You're like, well, why don't you just take command of a unit and we'll show you. We give people the opportunity to organise games against people or host games to demo them. So sometimes there are just tables that are sitting open. Like I bought my Dead Man's Hand stuff and just set it up on the table because, cowboys. And I think it was actually one of the. I don't think it was actually a person from CrackCon. I think it was just one of the shop regulars sort of asked about it because they'd only ever been played 40k. And then Dom nipped over and gave him a demo.
Oh, brilliant.
And hopefully that was another one in the net. That's come to the light side. And that's what we want. So anyone who wants to run a game is welcome. Anyone who wants to potentially put on a participation game is welcome. We just we put up a list of what people are running, and then we'll sort of try and promote it a little bit and just see what happens.
Awesome. Well, stick me in my usual spot by the door, and I'll come up with something.
Yeah, I know. It's also first out, so no clearing up. Yeah.
Brilliant. So, any future plans then, guys, for PCP or CrackCon or your channels? What's the future looking like?
Should we tell them about the well, we might have been kind of strong-armed into potentially trying to put a game on at Salute or something.
Yes, I heard that this week.
So that came about as a bit of a mad thing. So yeah, we might try and do that. It's just we'll have to decide what. I think it'd probably have to be Turnip, otherwise, like, I think that's what people probably would expect. The PCP, I don't think we're just carrying on doing the same thing. We've formalised it a little bit more, haven't we? We put up a monthly menu of what to expect, on the show, and we had a bit of a period where the things were a bit erratic because due to illness and Ken moving house and just everyone's lives being so busy, there were just a few weeks where it was a little bit bumpy in terms of the number of people we had on. But that was a couple of months ago now, and the viewing figures are just constantly going up. The playback is mad. We get about, well, especially for sort of our kind of thing, I think we get about between 1,000 and 1,500 playbacks before 7 days before the next one. And we have these mad people in the comments who are like, I've just gone and binged every single one. And you're like, wow.
Oh, I saw that guy. Was it last week or the week before?
Yeah.
He'd done all of them. Wow.
Yeah. And it's like,
Well, maybe something for the future would be a rehab home, PCP rehab.
I wanted to do a clip show, but then I realised that would involve watching old episodes, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And because you're live, you don't have anything to edit, don't you? So you don't have you couldn't do an outtake reel.
No. Dom occasionally gets some funny ones of Ken. He'll get some funny ones.
I was going to say, if I could request anything from you guys, it would be a best bits of Ken special.
I know what my favourite one is.
I think I know what my for me it would be when he announced live on air that he's no ordained minister.
Oh, that
was brilliant. That was
brilliant.
Oh,
that was he absolutely stunned us.
There was just silence, and we were all like,
"You what?
What?"
Just like it was the most normal thing in the world. Yeah. Oh, I'm a priest. What? Where did you buy this on the internet? And for me, it would be the one just before Christmas where we designed characters for each other to be 3D printed, and then we would paint them for each other because we do a little Christmas challenge for each other. And Carla from Battle Knight and Jason, they kindly offered to print them off for us so we could paint them up. And I showed Ken, and obviously there's all these. Basically, I produced this kind of mad hobbit with ginger hair, wielding staff in kind of like a parting the Red Sea kind of pose, but made sure he had a bottle of WKD on his hip, which is what Ken drinks. And then because the joke about the fiddle yard had just come out, and I think it was Steve. It might have been Dom. I can't remember. One of them just said it's Fiddly Ken.
Oh yeah,
and that was it. I was done. I was done.
That was when I mocked
Ken.
up that Mr. Man book.
Fiddly, yeah, he did. Yeah, the Mr. Man, Fiddly Ken. He just did that. Fiddly Ken.
And of course, is the world famous French Napoleonics are just like Space Marines.
Oh. God, well, that was him trying to be clever because he went on miniature live stream in Miniature Realms. Not thinking, I don't know if you think that any of us were going to watch it. And Stu at the time, he come from, he's really loved his Napoleonics historicals, but he comes from a background in Lord of the Rings and fantasy as a commission painter. And Ken was interviewing him, was blatantly trying to think of something, to say at that point. He went, I often think that, the French are like the ultramarines of the Napoleonic War. And out of everyone, Dom saw it and then clipped it and then showed he showed it to a couple of guests as well when we had them on. And, oh my God, it was. Yeah, we've still got that clip actually saved on our little upload thing. So
that's not getting deleted. It's just too good, that clip. It's just too good.
Yeah, it needs to come back. That clip. It is one of my favourites, and Ken is definitely part of the entertainment. I have to say.
Oh, definitely. We do occasionally get people going, "You should leave him alone." It's like we don't do it. He does it to himself. We don't do it.
Oh, well, that's brilliant, guys. It's been absolutely fantastic chatting with you both for quite well, probably over 3 hours now in total. Awesome. over a couple of weeks. And before we finish off, I always say ask people if they've got a question for me, because I've been questioning you for hours and hours and hours. I might get away with it. You never know. But Martin, have you got one?
Yeah, I've got one. If you could throw any wargaming historical period in the bin, all the figures in the world suddenly disappear and they're gone. All those rule sets are gone, and it can't be played on. Pain of being thrown in a pit full of turnip snails. What historical wargaming period would it be? It has to be historical though. It has to be historical, not fantasy.
It has to be historical. Oh. That's a difficult one. I'm trying to think of anything that Yorkshire's lost. I don't think we have. Because it was a marriage that ended the War of the Roses, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's not a defeat. That's a tough one. Steve, have you got a question, and then I'll come back to that and think about it.
It's not really a question. Give me 5 good reasons why you wouldn't play Turnip 28.
They're just going to be his 5 rules.
Yeah. Well, certainly the no weird shit rule would be breached.
Yeah.
So that's rule 3 out of the way. As I said before, I have a reputation to keep. Most definitely.
He's struggling.
Can it be played? Can you do it as a big game?
Yeah.
Could you go full on country show? Giant turnip winner. These guys who do turnips the size of houses.
I mean, you could do. I mean, it's meant to be played on a small scale, like 4 units on a 3x3 board. But if you wanted to up the turnip scale, like Baldric,
my turnip of my very own.
Yeah.
It's a skirmish game, so they're 3.
Okay. 3. Tenuous,
but yeah, because I'm kind of struggling. It's very rare I get stumped with a question, I have to say. I'd give it a go. I would play a game. There we go. Right. I would play a game. Okay. I don't think I could ever collect it.
Would you be playing the game with a bag on your head in case someone recognised you?
Yeah, well, I think my reputation's already destroyed. I just need somebody to get a photograph of me drinking coffee whilst painting something in contrast paints using a wet palette, and none of which will happen, by the way. And then I'm done, really, aren't we? So I'm going to have to say, Martin, back to you.
Oh, yeah. I'm interested in this. This is going to be Ken controversy moment.
This is so difficult. Because wargaming wise, I've got really early ancient armies, Alexander the Great and Punic Wars Romans, and then I've got nothing till the Crusades. So I could get rid of all that Dark Age stuff that I don't really know anything about. But then I think what it would have to be because I am as a crown servant and a loyal subject to Her Majesty. I'm going to say controversially English Civil War, and that's because the Royalists lost.
Oh,
So we could wipe that part of history out of the way.
That is wow. You're not just going a little bit there. That's full on.
Do you know what we should do?
Full on.
Ken, let us know when this is coming out because we'll let Miller know.
You sit through it. I won't tell him how long it's going to be. I'll say, sit through this. It goes just a bit for you, just at the end, mate.
Is he a parliamentarian?
He is an out and out parliamentarian, and I'm a royalist because what I like doing is pointing out to him how they won, and then 10 years later the country went, no, we'd rather have him back. Can we have back the king, please?
I think Miller and Joe were quite taken aback when I called them potato eating Puritans the other week.
Yeah. These are the people that banned Christmas pudding. Remember that?
They did ban Christmas pudding. This
Hello,
is very
Hayley.
true. They say she just wants to know why people would ban Christmas pudding. The great thing is, I don't know if I've said this. I told Miller that I live in Cambridge. I'm fairly close to Ely, which was where Cromwell lived, and Cromwell's house was there, and I went there and I took along my little King Charles figure and I popped him on the sign and took a picture outside Cromwell's house.
Here's my Cromwell fact. So I live in Warrington, and we've got a statue of Oliver Cromwell in town, outside the Guardian office, and also we've got an Indian restaurant here called the Cottage. And outside of that is a plaque because during the Civil War, Cromwell stayed there. It wasn't an Indian restaurant back then.
I was about to say, what do you have?
No, strange it wasn't.
That used to be a pub, didn't it? Because I've had a few beers in that pub.
Yeah.
Many years ago.
So he's been round here, the potato-eating Puritan.
Yeah. Yeah. We're obviously all royalists. So that's the reason I will get rid of it, because at the end the royalists lost. But then, like you say, Martin, 10 years later, they're back. And we've won again.
Exactly.
It's like the Bee Gees, you win again. Anyway, on that note, gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. If you'd just like to say good night to everyone.
Thank you for having me. Good night.
Yeah, no, cheers, Ken. Thanks for having us on. It's been a blast. I really enjoyed it.
It's been awesome.
Lovely. Thanks very much, everyone. Good night. So there we have it. 2 whole episodes of Martin and Ste. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. We had a right laugh and we covered all sorts of topics. A typical Yorkshire Gamers podcast at the end of the day. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, and a couple of 3 weeks' time, and I hope to bring you a Brews in the Binyard Summer Special with old friends of the show, Alex Storm of Steel Southern and Sean God's Own Scale Clark. And I look forward to it. I'm seeing them in a couple of weeks' time for the Little Wars TV game, and we'll hopefully organise something then. So look after yourselves, and hopefully I shall see you in a couple of weeks' time. Until then, Sidi.